Exercise can be hard to begin and hard to stick at. You might set a New Year's resolution and wonder halfway through the year, what happened to that? We speak to Nyree Swan, who was in the exact same situation. A doctor, a mum. Now, 5 years later, she's loving her exercise of choice. We learn what helped get her started, what helped her continue that journey. It's a story that'll inspire you to find an exercise routine that you will actually enjoy. You're listening to the Figuring Life Out Together podcast. If you're interested in learning from other people, that's what this is all about. Click subscribe and check out some of our other podcasts. Let's go to the interview with Nyree about getting started with exercise now. Nyree, great to have you with us today.
Thanks, Tom.
Tell us 3 things about yourself.
I'm a GP. That's what I do, 3.5 days a week. I'm married to Nathan. We have 2 sons who are called Samuel and Noah. So they're 14 and 12 at the moment. And swimming is one of my hobbies.
Excellent. What's your favourite thing about being a GP?
I just like being able to follow people through over a longer period of time. So when I was looking at what I wanted to do in medicine, I thought I wanted to work in my hometown, which is Ipswich. This is where I was born. And I also like the idea about being able to follow people up over the longer term, so that you were seeing children as they were growing up and people through over the course of health conditions that they were dealing with, and just seeing that development over time.
So tell me how you got into swimming.
Swimming. So I had swum when I was a kid. We did club swimming, and I always enjoyed swimming, enjoyed being at the beach and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, I wasn't able to swim quite as regularly, or wasn't finding the time to do it. But I think during a stint where I was in Chinchilla for 6 months, I was having to live out there by myself during the week while Nathan was at home for part of my training. So one of the things I did was go to the pool, swam there regularly over that time. Did it again when I was pregnant with my first child. After that, I guess it kind of fell by the wayside with young children. But then later on, I was getting to a point where I was giving out advice regularly to patients about their health and exercise and diet and things like that, but feeling a bit guilty on the side that I wasn't really doing a lot for my own physical fitness. I was walking a few times a week perhaps, but then I think the crux came one day when I gave my mother a trip to Mount Tamborine to do the high ropes course there, and to my shock I got stuck on a cargo net that you had to swing across. You're strapped up in your harness, but then I realised I didn't have the strength to pull myself up to unhook the harness. It was rather embarrassing hanging there for several minutes trying to figure out how to get off this thing. In that moment I realised how poor my upper body strength was, and made a commitment then and there that I was going to do something about it. So I decided I was going to go back to the pool, bought myself a 20 visit pass so I would not want to waste it. I started swimming twice a week, initially smaller distances, but then just gradually building up over time.
So you didn't really have a plan on how far you'd aim for at the start? You just thought, I'll start? And
I thought so, yeah. I'd been swimming fairly regularly with the kids, just recreationally, so I was quite surprised the first time that I was actually able to swim a total distance of 1 kilometre, but that was stopping every 1 to 2 laps. So I was actually amazed that my breathing wasn't too hard up at that point in time, so I thought, well, that's not a bad start, and I'll just go from there and see how I go.
So I guess out of all the forms of exercise, swimming had the most appeal to you, would you say?
Yes, I've always enjoyed being in the water and find that more relaxing.
Do you think that's important for people to find the thing that suits them?
I think so. There'd been several times where I'd tried running, but I don't love running. I know that's one of your passions, but I think several years before I started the swimming, I'd actually thought that I might train for a park-to-park 5K run. The 1 week into it, my knee had ballooned out, quite swollen, quite sore. I'd done too much too soon, and I suspected torn a meniscus in my knee, so I decided running was not going to be my thing after that. So, and plus I wasn't quite game to run on it after that in case I did more damage. But I thought, surely in the pool I'm not going to do anything to my knee. Surely you can't hurt yourself swimming.
Yeah. So how did you notice much difference after beginning the swimming to your general well-being in life?
Yes, so definitely a few months after I had started, I realised several things. One was that I'd actually gained weight. So I got on the scales, realised I'd gained a couple of kilograms, so which I believe was actually muscle building up that I didn't have before. I realised that I was actually starting to feel more relaxed. Overall, wasn't stressing about things
that's good.
quite as much, and I actually had a lot more energy too. So previously, if I took the kids down the park and spent a while there, when I came back, I felt like I needed a nap. But once I'd been regularly swimming for a while, I felt like I had much more energy just to do day-to-day things as well.
And apart from physical well-being, was there other ripple effects of the exercise?
I think just building some confidence in myself and being able to grow and develop in something even at an older age. So I think a lot of the time when you're a kid, you're sort of in competitive environments where the aim is to try and get a better time and things like that. But as an adult, just starting out doing it for enjoyment was good. It was good being able to take it at my own pace. And I think over time, just realising that I could actually learn things about swimming technique that I hadn't really been taught or realised as a kid, and that I was actually progressing and getting better. And that was actually quite motivating in itself.
So what you're doing with your swimming now would impress a lot of people who aren't into that. What sort of things are you doing with your swimming now?
Okay, so about 3 years ago, I was getting a bit bored with just swimming laps and needed a bit of a goal or a challenge. So I was thinking that I wanted to perhaps do something that was more of a longer distance. I wasn't really wanting to do masters swimming races, which are often sort of 50 to 200 metres or so in that kind of atmosphere that we had at carnivals when we were a kid. But I thought I wanted to do the longer distance. So I found out about some of the ocean swims that were on the coast. And there was one coming up at Noosa, which was a beautiful place to swim. They had a 1 kilometre starting event, so for people who are just new into the sport or trying it for the first time. I looked up what sort of times people were doing and realised people of all different abilities were doing it. It wasn't just super fast swimmers, it was average swimmers and even people who are obviously just doing it for a challenge to complete the distance. And thought, well, I could actually give that a go. I like the ocean, so...
Do you think it's a fear for many people just beginning that they won't be able to keep up, that they won't be good enough, and so they don't enter these sorts of things?
Yeah, that's right. But I guess when I put it in the perspective of, well, don't compare yourself to other people. Do this because it's a goal that you want to do, and just make it the goal that you want to be able to complete a 1 kilometre swim safely and enjoy it. So that was good. So at that point in time, I had actually swum a kilometre continuously in the pool, realised that I could do it. So I hadn't actually done any of the actual ocean swims in the ocean. So my first time actually doing an ocean swim was during my first race. So that was a little bit intimidating and quite nerve-wracking standing on the starting line, but I enjoyed it. It was a really well-run event with good support and safety personnel out on the water. They were very encouraging, and they were just encouraging everybody to just give it a go. So it was good.
And I guess you felt a sense of accomplishment after that. Would you say you were satisfied with that level, or you felt like now I can go and try something even more?
Well, I guess I wanted to improve and push myself a bit more after that. So I guess one of my first goals was simply to be able to swim a kilometre in under 20 minutes in the pool, and I had accomplished that just in the lead up to doing my first 1K swim. Which at that point in time, leading up to that, there'd been a number of months where I'd been quite stagnant, wasn't really making much progress, and thought, well, maybe I'm never actually going to do that. But as soon as I started swimming 3 times a week instead of twice a week, I immediately improved, and it just happened. Then next step I took was to actually go and get my stroke filmed. There's a man with something called Effortless Swimming who travels around Australia, does swimming clinics, teaches you about freestyle technique, films you under the water, on top of the water, gives you good feedback, and that really helped with my stroke technique and led to quite a big improvement quite quickly just with getting my technique corrected. I was starting to look at, well, how do you trained for longer distances and learning some more about interval training, building up to building your fitness as well. I think at first I was just trying to do 4 sets of 100 metres with a bit of a break in between. At that point in time, that was quite hard on my heart rate, and I feel quite exhausted just doing that. But gradually over time I learned how do you pick the pace that you need to swim at, building up to doing 10 of those in a row and accomplishing that, and then just bringing down my 1K time gradually. Then I wanted to push myself perhaps and get out of the 1K and perhaps do the 2K. So 2 years later I had worked towards the 2K goal and participated in a couple of ocean swims of 2 kilometres in length. And then I thought, well, just maybe I could do the 5K one day, which was the longest distance at that point in time being offered at the events that I'd been to.
So you set some goals, and little by little you worked your way up. You got some coaching.
Yes.
So I'm sure that would, be helpful. What's the key to maintaining motivation? I'm sure it's not easy. Swimming 3 times a week, is that what you still do?
Yes.
Yeah,
so mostly 3 times a week.
How do you maintain the motivation, especially on cold, dark mornings, to get out of bed?
Well, I think I actually want to swim these days, and I don't want to miss out on my swimming because it's actually become part of what I do just by making it part of the routine. The first challenge was actually just finding ways to fit it into life and just making a commitment to that. I guess working part-time helps with that. It's usually Tuesday's my day off, so I can do a longer swim on that day. Thursdays I work half to 3/4 of a day, so I'll usually fit in a session then, and then just committing to working around what we're doing on the weekend, doing another swim. Then, so once I was in the pattern of doing it regularly, it just kind of became part of what I was doing. I guess same way some people regularly go for their walks or runs or go to the gym.
So the hardest part was starting, would you say?
I think so. And then I think once you make it a habit and something that you actually look forward to, you want to do it. So in the past, a few years ago, I would have thought anybody going to the pool at 5 a.m. in winter was completely nuts.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people now who will do that if I need to. Obviously, I prefer to swim during the day when it's a bit warmer if I can, but if the schedule for the week means that I can't make it these days, I'll actually look for a way to get to the pool earlier so that I can. I found out it wasn't so bad. The pool's quite warm at that time because I've only just taken the covers off.
Yeah. Is there anything that swimming's taught you about life?
I think certainly perseverance.
Yeah.
So that was something that, and I think also just that, I think just about making habits. If you want to do something and you want it to be good for you, then just sort of setting little goals. And once you've achieved smaller goals, then you can sort of set another goal a bit further ahead, and just step by step you can build up what you're doing. I think just perseverance. Also learning that at any age we've always got things that we can learn and we can always improve as well. I think that happens across a wide range of facets in life too. And I think for myself, I think previously I hadn't really been wanting to take time out because as a mum I always felt a bit guilty about whether I took time away from kids or family, that it would be a bit selfish to kind of put that much time into myself. But then I realised, look, if I look after myself as well and do something for enjoyment, I feel a bit more relaxed and happier and better equipped to put more into
So have you noticed
my kids'
that?
work.
Do you feel that you are a better parent since devoting this little bit of time to yourself, or?
I think it just helps to gain a perspective that that's okay,
Yep.
to do it, and just to be a bit more balanced in how I look at life and what I'm doing. I guess I'm on the flip side of that. Also, just got to watch that, not putting too much time into the swimming or making it an obsession. But I think it's been good overall.
So how long have you been swimming now?
Since about 5.5 years now since I committed to doing it regularly. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I'm interested, we've talked briefly about some flow-on effects, but there's different sides to health, emotional health and mental health, spiritual health. Do you think starting with physical exercise has helped in any of those areas for you?
Well, I think it was something that I kind of needed to do to balance out other areas of life as well. So, definitely there's big emphasis on having a balance in our approach to health these days, and more of the integrating sort of social aspects and psychological aspects as well. Mental health is certainly a big thing that I see as a GP. But I think, yes, if we focus too much on one aspect of our health but neglect some of the other areas, then I think certainly we can be missing out on what we need to fully develop as people.
So for you, it's about balancing the different areas.
I think so, yeah. I guess prior to swimming, yes, I've certainly always been very regular with doing my Bible reading and devotions, coming to church, having time for prayer and things like that, which is all good, and I'd found ways to make that a pattern in my life. But then I also needed to find a way to make physical exercise an important part of my life as well. So just watching what I was eating and learning things about that. And when you have kids, you certainly start to realise how much bad habits you sometimes have in your diet when you're wanting to teach them healthy eating habits. So always having to reassess those sorts of things as well. So I think often it's about having a bit of a balanced approach to that as well.
And you mentioned sort of being an example for your kids. Do you find it easier to prescribe exercise to patients now that you are seeing the benefits of it?
I think so, because you can also talk to them about how to get started, how to set sort of smaller goals to start off with. I think also just talking to people about what do you enjoy doing, or what do you think you would enjoy doing. There's no use somebody going and trying to swim laps of the pool if they hate the water or are scared of drowning or something. But for some people, they would like to have a treadmill at home and do that while they listen to something or watch something. Other people like to get out and walk because that clears their mind. So it's usually trying to help them find something that they would enjoy as well.
And like you, it might be something from their childhood that they enjoyed, a sport or something that might give them a clue into what that is.
That's right. Yeah. I think so, yes.
Yeah. Through your work as a GP, what do you think are the big health issues generally in our society here?
Yeah, so certainly in Australia, I think mental health is something that I spend a lot of my time on. I would estimate probably at least a third of each day is spent on that. Even when I'm seeing people for long-term physical problems, there's often a mental health aspect to that comes in as well. I think as our population ages as well, we're seeing a lot more of the chronic diseases cropping up. So often it's about preventative health as well. So trying to look at those things that might be risk factors for things like heart disease, diabetes, or stroke, and helping people address those, which might be blood pressure, high cholesterol, smoking, inactivity, things like that, and trying to help people change some of those things which may have a payoff in the longer term. I also see a lot of children as well, so I think a lot of developmental issues are quite prevalent these days for our young children, and probably as that's become sort of more recognised as well, with knowledge around ADHD and autism and other developmental things that may affect children as well. We're seeing more and more of that.
Do you think that's an increase in it, or just an increase in awareness?
Increase in awareness, I think, because there's certainly been more research and work on it, more publications of information about it, a greater understanding, I think, in schools and in the general community as well, which makes it something that you can actually go and get some help for, which is good.
It's pretty important. I guess that people are talking about these things. Mental health, I guess, was another thing that was ignored in the past in many areas, and now that it's talked about, people are getting help.
Yeah, I certainly believe so. So I think it's probably about 17 years since I would have started as a registrar in general practice, and I think even in that time I've seen a shift in terms of more people being willing to come and talk about their mental health, whereas I think sort of early on there was a lot of conversations where you had to actually tell people what the stats were on mental health, and for them to actually realise that it was a fairly common thing that does affect people.
And that'd be the same for exercise and people's awareness of different types and the importance of it. That the more people are talking about it, the more likely, I guess, the general population will become more interested in it.
I think so, and I think certainly, I guess one encouraging thing that I see is sort of older people who are often taking up physical exercise with, I think, classes being developed specifically targeted for people in the older age group as well. I think also a lot of the gyms realising that a clientele is not necessarily the young 20-something strong people who can pump out a lot of weight or do a lot of reps, but employing exercise physiologists to help people learn to use the equipment safely and follow an exercise program that's suited to what their goals are, what their needs are.
It's never too late to start, because I think a lot of people would think, well, I'm 70, I'm not going to start something now, but you'd say that's not too late?
No, I don't think so. And I think certainly some of the things, like, I guess during lockdown, I became more aware of that when I couldn't go to the pool.
Yes.
Needed to look for alternative forms of exercise. Was doing sort of just some, I guess we call it dry land training if you're a swimmer. But just looking at things like push-up variations, for example, and people had made videos where they showed wall push-ups or chair push-ups for people who might be a bit older or may not have the strength to do a full push-up, realising you can adapt a lot of the exercises for that. Speaking to physios who maybe their job might be in rehabilitation wards helping elderly people who've had a fall or recovering from a stroke or a fracture in the hip or knee operation, where they simply need to be able to get up out of a chair. So their exercises might be that they've got to do 10 stand up, sit down into a chair. But you can always do something to help improve no matter what situation you're in or your age. And then I met an 88-year-old gentleman who came in to see me one day. He had his gym shoes and socks on. He'd just come from his gym class with those young ladies in their 50s. So I was thinking, I want to be like you. So.
There's probably people listening that know they should be exercising and eating healthier, and they've had a few goes, but it's never quite stuck, and they just don't quite have the motivation. And they're listening right now and think, I should do something, but it's that should rather than they want to. What would you say to someone like that?
Yeah, so I think it's hard when there's no motivation, but I think you've got to kind of almost find a motivation to do it. It's easier to do something if we know why we want to do it as well, or even a reason to do it. And I believe, like I said before, finding a goal that you can actually achieve. So, for example, for some people, I might say, look, start with trying 3 times a week that you might walk 10 minutes. Then do that for a couple of weeks, and then you add a bit of time to that, and you keep going until you can do a 30-minute walk. For different people, it's going to be different things that they do, but I think, again, also choosing something that you want to do as well. It's going to be pretty hard to keep doing it if you hate it, so I think there's always got to be some way to motivate yourself to do it. And also having, I guess, I'm not averse to having little rewards for yourself when I achieve this, then I can do this. So.
Yeah, that's good. What about the social aspect of it? Do you think that's important?
I think so. So for some people, it might actually be that they need to walk with a partner or a friend. That can be quite motivating. I've seen ladies in the pool who do kick sets. They get kickboards and they swim 3 abreast, kicking up and down the lane, but they have a chat while they're doing it. There's also quite a big group that meets for aqua class as well. So I think that's important for a social aspect for some of our older people who might be a bit more socially isolated if they're retired and not working so much. But a lot of those ladies will come and arrive a good 45 minutes before the class even starts, and they just get in the water and chat while they're waiting for the class. So,
do you have last question? Any goals now? Looking ahead, you've already achieved a fair bit with your swimming.
Yes, so I achieved my first 5K swim this year. So I think heading into next season, I'm aiming to get a bit more confidence in the actual ocean. So I'm looking to go down with the Gold Coast Open Water Swimming Club and try and get a few swims in there. A bit more effort to get there, but I did my first swim with them a couple of weeks ago and really enjoyed it. So I think I'll be trying for that. I think I'm just trying to improve my technique and get my times down a bit more. I think next season I'll probably be mostly focused on the 2 to 5K swims. Eventually I think I'd like to attempt a 10K because that's marathon distance in the swimming world. That sounds like something that's a bit further ahead yet, but I'm I'm thinking if I take
Keep
it
at
step
it.
by step again, I
Yeah.
can perhaps achieve that. I didn't think I'd achieve a 5K 5 years ago when I saw
Yeah.
somebody doing it for the first time, but I've done it. So
Well, it's inspiring, Nyree. Thank you for chatting with us and just encouraging everyone listening to keep going or get started.
thank you.
If you found that inspiring, please let Nyree know in the comments below. Take the time to do that. It would mean a lot to her and to us. If you have a question as well, we love questions here. We're all about complex questions and creating a safe place to discuss them. If you'd like to find out more about that, visit our website, haventogether.com. Thanks for listening all the way through. Hope again that you enjoyed it and that you might tune in again next time. I'm Tom, and this is the Figuring Life Out Together podcast.